we're gonna get into this book real quick. Um, it's The Art of Terracotta Pottery in Pre-Columbian Central and South America. So again, this is by Alexander von Wutenow. For despite their primitive technique, the primitive potters who created them succeeded in representing most vividly the physical characteristics and emotional qualities of their subjects. All right, so what he's trying to say is they're very realistic, a lot of this stuff. So you can kind of see the person, phenotype and everything, their expression. You could almost see if they were mad, happy, or laughing. So it's a lot of them are very kind of realistic, even though they still look like somebody just molded it with their hands. It is interesting to note that not only Indians are represented among the men and women portrayed, some have unmistakable Semitic. So this is what he calls Semitic, is what he calls so-called white. So that's what he's gonna. So you gotta dodge the hijack. That's why he's gonna separate right here as he's doing Semitic or Negroid features. What he's letting you know, these phenotypes were in ancient America. Again, he just said 3,000 years. Huh? Semitic, and Negroid features. The hypothesis the author draws from this is that such peoples must at some time have lived in Mesoamerica, and so have been familiar to the artists who created their portraits. Wow. Hey, you guys see the hair? Yeah. That's the other thing I want you guys to notice, the haircuts and what they're wearing on their heads. Some of them, and the beards, because they said it wasn't beards over here. All right. You see? You guys see this hair? You see his hair? Yeah. Almost like the Buddhas, right? Almost like the Buddhas, how they have the little round things sticking out. It is clear to me that these unlooked for results might lead to a new perspective concerning our knowledge of certain ethno-historical events and population migrations. Because the individual and racial characteristics of the human face are something that no one would be able to invent by accident, it seems to me that if ever anything were created by God, it was surely the racial differentiations of mankind. It is in contradiction, moreover, to the most elementary logic and to all artistic experience that an Indian could depict in a masterly way the head of a Negro or a white person without missing a single racial characteristic. All right, so this is what he's classifying. When he's seeing phenotypes, he's calling it white, he's calling it Negro, and then he's calling the other one Indian. So this is his way of, but you got to dodge the hijack. But literally, what he's telling you is, if you're of a certain phenotype, you and your people, to draw somebody else, create a pottery, sculpt, a sculpture, and do some other people's phenotype and look, but make them look just like these other people, is because you had that model right in front of you. These people were right there, is what he's trying to say. So he's trying to emphasize the part that, yeah, he had a so-called Negro model. He's saying all the Indian. Who's the Indian? So-called Indians were considered so-called Negroes. So, that's why I'm saying you got to dodge the hijack. It says enigmatic heads of men of different races from the pre-classic period at Guerrero. Back up. See that? You guys see that? Yeah, yeah. So many phenotypes, right, guys? Many different looking people. So it doesn't mean they came from somewhere else. Doesn't mean, you can classify as Mongol and Negro and white like everybody else does in these books. But then you're just doing generalizing like they are. You got to understand, real genealogy, like real, like, people didn't look the same, you know? Do you remember? You guys see why they didn't want you to see these terracottas? And if you're blind, you don't see what these people look like. It's very clear. Most remarkable of all is the early appearance at both Tlatilco and Tlapacoyan of Negroid types, shown in many photographs in this book. Right? So you got the asterisk, and it says here in the footnote, the most beautiful Negro representations were made by the Mixtecs, and therefore are post-classic. Besides this, it is also interesting that the deity of the jewelers, now Pili, mentioned in the Florence Codex, right, is still represented in this late post-classic era with kinky hair. Again, with kinky hair. All right, it's very important to know this stuff. Yeah, they tell people with so-called kinky hair, say, "Oh, you couldn't be Indian because you got kinky hair. It's not straight." So American Bully C says, "Why is this important?" So the children can know who they are, man. With, all right. So again, even their deities are represented with kinky hair, which either might go back to very ancient Olmec, that's the hijack, that's a made-up name. We're gonna investigate this traditions, or to influences, right? That's why they don't know, or to influences from South America. R.G. Granados quotes the listing in the Register of Mexican Antiquities of the Archivo de Indios of a green stonehead which had kinky hair made of gold and weighed, the Spaniards were very exact, 17 pesos and 4 tamines. All right. Again, we're not saying that there was one type of look here. All right. We're just telling you that what you're thinking of so-called Negroes not just coming out of Africa. Right. More than 30 years ago, a German scholar whom I personally served as a cultural attaché in Buenos Aires found Negro skulls and a very deep layers in Argentina. Like I just said, they've been finding it. So-called Negro skulls. Also in Brazil, Negro skeletons are said to have been found recently. I do not know if any have ever turned up in Mesoamerica. He don't know. He just admitted it. Okay, that's what I was saying. He don't know. He ain't keeping up to date. Basically, what I'm trying to show you is look how they're debating. They're like, man, what's up with all these terracottas looking like so-called Negroes? Where's the bones? How are the bones that have been found? All kinds of different bones all over the Americas. At this point, one might also refer to the research work recently conducted by Dr. Alfonso L. de Garay, who claims to have found Negro characteristics in blood tests among the Lacandan Indians. What does that mean? One of the most secluded Maya tribes of Mexico. To illustrate the Mixtec's capacity to represent human beings, we may refer to three heads. The large one on page 113 is a ceramic masterpiece, both in technical execution and in artistic concept. The surprising thing about this piece is that it hardly suggests an accidental stylization made by an Indian, so-called Indian, such a generalized term. How the appearance of Negro elements came about in this late post-classic period is still a riddle. It's still a riddle. They don't know why. Why? Why do they look so-called Negro? They're supposed to be in Africa. They're supposed to be in Africa. The smaller female head is an important piece from the Berlin Dahlem Museum and also shows slightly Negroid features. Also, a third specimen of this type, which belongs to the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, so they know, all these anthropologists in Mexico, they know what they have in their collections, is shown on page 181, lower left. In this figure, there is no point in quibbling. A real Negro is represented, okay? Page 181, huh? 181, right? 181 is what they're talking about right here. Either of them could be. All right, this is found in ancient Mexico. That's the hijack with your terms, Indian and Negro. Those are hijacked generalized terms. These people had their own names, right, as individuals, and they belonged to certain tribes and nations that had specific names. They didn't call themselves Indians. They didn't call themselves Negroes. They didn't call themselves blacks, okay, or the red mans. You guys see that one? All right. And believe it or not, I think these were like incense holders too. With the collection of Huestacan portrait heads, we begin a very interesting chapter in the early ethnological history of the Americas. Here, as on the plateau of Mexico and everywhere else in Mesoamerica, we find totally different racial types. Totally different racial types. Where? In Mexico, the plateau, just like everywhere else in Mesoamerica, just like everywhere else. So what does that mean? Including so called Negro people, what you consider to be so called Negro. The white element is predominant. What he's calling white is the so called Semitic or the straight nose. Like straight nose or hook noses and things like that, beards. He's calling all that white. All right, so that's you got a picture. That's what he's talking about. And two faces with Semitic characteristics. What is that? Semitic characteristics are also shown. Even Negroid features appear. Even Negroid. The small classic female head, second row center, which reminds one of the best miniature portrait heads from Teotihuacan, and the beautifully modeled Negro woman, third row center, with delicate African breast, are masterpieces. Right? So Tashta Hajek, she's not African, but that's the only way he can describe her so people can picture it. All right, now check this one out. Wow. Yeah. The same can be said about page 133. Above are two vigorous Negro personalities whose faces show particularly clear scarification that tattooing, for which, as is well known, the Negro skin is especially suited. Oh, guys, hear that? The origin of this custom, as well as the general usage of earrings, all right, most likely has to be looked for in Africa. Tash the hijack. He's so convinced these are Africans that came over here 4,000 years ago, right? Because that's what exactly what they look like to him, right? So he's like, it has to be because that's the origin, really, of earrings. Who says that? Show me the source. Show me your research. We had earrings here since ancient times. All right, so this is what I'm saying when people add their conjectures. He got no sources for that part. What he got a source is the actual sculpture he's holding that they dug up in Mexico, not in Africa, Mexico. All right? Don't let these people cloud your mind with their ideas. So again, these are from Olmec sites, guys. These are from Olmec sites. So again, 6 Olmec heads, extremely human renderings of the Olmec type, both actual size. It says note the Negroid type on the left. All right. So diversity even on this right here, right? The most beautiful and literally the most valuable Negroid representation from pre-Hispanic America belongs to Colombia and can be found in the second showcase of the famous gold museum, Museo de Oro, of the National Bank in Bogota. The piece measures 17 centimeters in height and is of gold with a light copper alloy. It was reproduced in color in 1948 in a bank's catalog of the museum. Our drawing gives an idea of the appearance of the face and forms of this unusual figure, extremely interesting apart from the Negro physiognomy of the face, are the neck rings in African style. That's what he sees. He thinks that's African. We've been conditioned and accustomed and indoctrinated to believe things like that are only found in Africa. You know, they're finding this. This is ancient America. The strange box-like set of teeth has surprising parallel and two small terracotta heads on exhibit in the main Teotihuacan showcase of the Diego Rivera Museum in Mexico City. In regard to the early appearance of Negroid elements in the pre-Columbian art of South America, the comments of the Spanish Dominican monk Fray Gregorio Garcia acquired renewed interest. According to Fray Garcia, who spent 9 years in Peru in the 16th century, the Spaniards saw Negroes for the first time in the New World on an island offshore of Cartagena, Colombia. He wrote as follows: Aquí se hallaron esclavos del Señor, negros que fueron los primeros, que los nuestros vieron en las Indias. All right. Another piece which depicts a Negroid personality, equal in value to the example, in the gold collection of the National Bank in Bogota, is the well-known gold pectoral of the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, commonly considered Mixtec, although it was discovered at Papantla, all right? He's not African, he's Mixtec. Veracruz. Erroneously, this piece has been considered a representation of Huehueteotl, the old or fire god, probably because of few filigree gold threads from a skimpy beard on his face. This opinion was recently voiced by Raúl Flores Guerrero in his Historia General de Arte Mexicano. If one wants to give a divine Nahuatl name to this pectoral, one should at least use the more correct designation of Noal PG. In later epochs, the deity of goldsmiths and jewelers, who in other representations also exhibits Negroid characteristics. Right? The god of what? Goldsmith and jewelers? He was so-called Negroid? An entity different meaning can be attached to the gold pendant found in the Mixteca Alta, which probably does represent the fire god. Actually, in this piece, we are again confronted with our old friend, the early Shemitic immigrant, who was probably the source of all the fire gods, all gods, and ancient incense burners of pre-Columbian America. The Shemitic is what? The gods? The Shem, people of Shem are the what? Huh? All right, we can keep reading, right? The two Mexican pieces are shown in adjoining drawings to illustrate vividly. Once again, the two racial types, which, as has often mentioned, were probably representations of the most important ancient American personalities. All right? Not African, not from Asia, but American. The interesting Negro described above is not, however, the only figure of value for our study from the glittering treasure house of Colombia, for we also find here an impressive supply of Semitic or Shemitic type, likewise in pure gold. In gold, man. All right, so figure 19, 20, and 21 evoke the primeval or ancestral dignity of the Old Testament. The more physical human aspect of these ancient personalities who must have had so much influence in America is emphasized in figures 22 and 23. In the needle head of figure 24, even an exaggeratedly grotesque line comes to fore. All the examples shown here, including the Negro, are products of Quimbaya culture, of the Cuaca Valley of Colombia, okay? Can I get a mic drop? They're from what? The Quimbaya culture, they're not from Africa. Even the Negro, including the Negro, not a part, not any slaves that mix with the Indians. Okay, they were part of the Quimbaya culture in the Cuaca Valley of Colombia, which apparently flourished between 400 and 600 AD, dodged a hijack with their radiocarbon datings, and thus belongs to the classic epic. See that? This one I thought was really interesting. I don't know. He got one eye, looked like a reptilian. But then he looked at it almost looked like what they wear in the Arabian countries, right? The cap over his head. Some might take offense that this artistic power has been extended to the recognition of racial differentiations. All right, some people find it offensive. He gets takes it personal when we say, "Oh, they found so-called Negro phenotypes or physiognomies in these sculptures." But this point of view is justified, I believe, by the material presented in this book. The representation of white types is so frequent that no one can remain unaware of them, so-called white. The Negroid element is the exception, but it's well proven by the large Olmec stone monuments, as well as the terracotta items, and therefore cannot be excluded from the pre-Columbian history of the Americas. Stop trying to exclude it from them being American. Furthermore, it is precisely the Negroid representations which often indicate personalities of high position, who can unhesitatingly be compared to the outstanding Negroes who served as models for great works of art in Egypt and in Nigeria. The early American terracotta artists were able to create and have thus handed down images of real Mesoamericans. In accordance with this method of reasoning, I propose that we put aside the doubts and worries of anthropologists and ethnologists and allow the terracotta works themselves to tell us their story. The creative hands of artists from those ancient days have stretched out to guide us to a new and clearer understanding of the history of the Americas, where apparently not only East and West, but in fact the whole world met. Again, guys, look at this. Mic drop. Can I get a body bag for the illusion? Shout out to Drop. Can't drop. Come on now. Not only is the East and West here, it's the whole world here. They they all came, but they all left, right? They all came. What happened? They all left though. The true old world, guys, is right here. We're gonna continue another book of Alexander von Wuthenau. It says here, Unexpected Faces in Ancient America, 1500 BC to AD 1500. All right, so they're going back at least 3,500 years. They're saying, but again, that's based on their carbon dating. We gotta trust their radiocarbon dating, huh? Look at this statue right here. Wakanda forever. Wakanda forever. Oh, you thought that was only you thought that was in the movie only? Do you guys see? Are you guys using your eyes? Do you see? Break the spells. Both ancient Americans, the true old world. Yeah, right here we're looking at some grills, some ancient grills. A Negroid head made from black copper with thick golden lips and teeth, cochlear region, Panama. Okay? And then we got the football player over here. Yeah, this is real artifacts, all right? Says here a rare Negroid head on Zapotecan vessel from Oaxaca. Private collection. It's always in these private collections. Chicago, huh? Where in Chicago? Hey, hey, get it out the closet and show everybody. Come on, man. It says here two post-classic Moorish looking heads below, presumably executed by mystic artists in the region of Oaxaca. The one on the left, now in private collection in Chicago, is intact. Its stirrup handle gives it remarkable Peruvian affinity, which strongly indicates some connections with Muxica effigy vessels from Peru, either by trade or by copying, all right? Mexico and Peruvian connection here, right? Do you see? Do you remember? Moorish looking, huh? Moorish looking. '26 above, a powerful terracotta head from Veracruz with Negroid characteristics. On the right, Olmec, again, Olmec on the right, Olmec, stone mask from Arroyo Pesquero, Southern Veracruz, State Museum, Jalapa, Veracruz. The testimony of this extremely realistic masterpiece establishes without any doubt the Oriental and especially Japanese ancestry of early Olmec inhabitants in America. Oh, I didn't say it, but what if he's seen it in reverse? Huh, guys? It still don't mean this because it looks like this, it wouldn't be Swarty. Flash your own hijacks and remember the true old world. These people's been seeing it in reverse the whole time. Right here we have the sensational Negro Tlaloc from the famous Olmec site at Chalchatzingo, Morelos, Mexico. Pre-classic, a view of the Negroid rock mask carved on top of the mountain overlooking the plains of Morelos. Okay, what are they talking about? Huh? This hand risen and the face is hard to see on this, but yeah, the phenotypes is what they're talking about. Right here it is, right here, if you guys can see it. You can't whitewash this one unless you take off the nose, but you must have missed this one. Check this out. I mean, this one right here is just, and you can't just say that's an African just because you found that right there in Mexico. Oh, that must have been an African that came. No. Look at her. Look at her hair. But it reminds me of like the Muppets and also like Fraggle Rock and all these people. And this is what they're calling Semitic because of the beard and the aquiline nose, I guess. Alfredo Chavero, writing in the monumental publication Mexico a través de los siglos. All right, we've gone over that book in my series From Indigenous American to African American, where we translated that book. And he says, follows in the footsteps of Melgar. He is, in addition, the very first person to look closely at the human clay figurines of Teotihuacan, spotting undoubtedly Negroid representations. Oh, now in here, we just seen some brothers working out. To me, it looks like they're working out, like they're big, like they're in the gym and stuff. He's doing his, he's pulling himself up right there. I want to ask you a question, my brother. Do you remember who you are? This was a pretty cool one. It's described as a Negroid man holding a baby jaguar. A baby jaguar. I can just imagine having my own baby jaguar to raise. That would be so cool. So this one right here, what they're doing is comparing what they found here in Teotihuacan, right? This artifact on the right with somebody in Africa, right? I believe she's from Nigeria, right? But again, that's the hijack. You see what I'm saying? They try to always make you something else. But just look at what they found here in Teotihuacan. I mean, case closed. Case closed. America area of Mexico, from all around the world, by drifting, paddling, and sailing across both the Atlantic and the Pacific on rafts, and climbing mountains and crossing the Bering Strait. All right, so dodge the hijack, because he also said probably. He's either way, he's saying all these phenotypes are right here. You're gonna find this again in Mexico. Every shape of face, every phenotype, every eye and lip, every shape of head. And you will find any and every one of these shapes and faces and every grade of color, from very dark to very light. Body bag for the illusion. Can I get a mic drop? So above he says, hey, he's calling this one a white person, right? He's calling this one a white person. And then this one, he's saying, a Negroid sculpture which was once the companion of the monumental Negro magician reproduced in illustrations 102 and 103. All right, so that's what he's talking about right here. Look at that, guys. Oh, yeah, they won't ever show you this archaeology. Honduras, right? And Honduras has a lot to show too. Check out the hairstyle. Is that a fez or a turban or something? But check out how the hair comes out to the side, just like the old Egyptian drawings, hieroglyphics we see, right? And just like they use in college, right? To was it the tassel what comes down over the head? You guys can see this was all in ancient America. And look at him, how he got his wow, is that like a hair wrap or is that his dreadlocks he's wrapping or what is that, huh? Wow. Very interesting, right? Says here, chapter 12, the absorption of the Negros, so-called Negros, the sporadic representation during the entire pre-Columbian epoch in all regions from Mesoamerica to Peru. Again, pre-Columbian epoch, all regions of Mesoamerica to Peru, okay? Absorption of Negroes. Where do they come from? Absorbed from where? What are you talking about? From the ground? From the earth? From mama and papa? Yeah, all over. All over. An attentive study of Negroid portrayals in pre-Columbian art leaves us little doubt about the presence of so-called black people in ancient America. Little doubt, guys. Little doubt. They've been known, and they still haven't updated the textbooks. So why didn't you go tell everybody? This paramount reality is even more surprising as soon as we examine the chronological and geographical extent of a racial phenomenon that was practically ignored in the past by professional investigators and the general public alike. In former chapters, we have seen that this remarkable racial incident can be traced back to the remotest history of America. Remote, way back. There's no doubt. Listen to what they're saying. There's no doubt. All right, so-called black people in ancient America. Michael Coe's last carbon date in 1966 dodged the hijack with a carbon dating of the San Lorenzo going back to almost 1200 BC. So guys, imagine that's the minimum they give it, and that's with their radiocarbon. It might be even older. Gives us an unmistakable clue to the great antiquity of the colossal Olmec heads. George Kubler describes these monumental witnesses as manifesting on the part of their creators a pharaonic desire for eternity, for physical survival beyond all the accidents of time. I believe Kubler is right, and I am beginning to believe that he is also right in introducing the word pharaonic, even if it means the vindication of the often laughed at explorer Count Waldeck. Waldeck was a close friend of Lord Kingsborough. Kingsborough believed in the early Semitic background of America's population, all right? Lord Kingsborough knew you were the chosen people. This was the true Holy Land. He was saying that in his book. All he found from interpreting the Mexican codices. Very scholarly work here, the collection of Lord Kingsborough, 9 volumes. And he has many codices in those volumes, the original ones. They never quarreled. Now we may assume that both of them did not go so far as to stray in their respective stubborn convictions. One piece of new archaeological evidence that has made a most lasting impression on me is the terracotta figurine excavated by Magnish and Tehuacan and depicted in Appendix 12. There is no escape, all right? It is one of the oldest specimens of its kind, and it is definitely Egypto-Nubian in looks. Oh, in looks, not that it is. Other early dated Negroid or semi-Negroid pieces come from Guerrero, Xochipala, and Pacific Coast La Venta, Tlatilco, Tlapacoya, Guatemala, El Salvador, and so on, and so on, and so on. Among them is a great favorite of mine, an exquisite Nilotic girl, who in her well-bred distinction and negritude all right, can rival the Egyptian boy king Tutankhamun. Incidentally, the most accurate and convincingly lifelike portrayals of racial distinctions in antiquity can be found among the archaeological objects from the tomb of Tutankhamun. That's the hijack with their theme park over there. The features of this Egyptian king, whose mother was of pure black stock. What are you saying? Her dad was his dad wasn't? Are almost as Negroid looking as the ones of his captured Nubian enemies, so admirably portrayed by the royal artist, commemorating the death of their sovereign. It is strange that some people still believe that all the Negroid images in this book were accidental creations of the American Indians. Can you believe that, guys? All right, a severe blow to this erroneous belief was given during the I forget the L numbers, International Congress of Americanists in Mexico by Andrzej Wiercinski. The well-known craniologist from the University of Warsaw, Dr. Wiercinski, was kind enough to lend me the manuscript of his contribution to the Congress, which I included in my paper also read at the Congress. Wiercinski says, it appeared that some of the skulls from Tlatilco, Cerro de las Mesas, and Monte Albán, all pre-classic sites in Mexico, show, to a different degree, a clear prevalence of the total Negroid pattern that has been evidenced by the use of the two methods, a multivariate distance analysis of average characteristics of individual fractions distinguished cranioscopically, analysis of frequency distributions of mean index of the position between combinations of racial varieties. All right, if you like the scientific terms, there you go. To this long list of implausible accidental creations, another very dramatic one can be added. Recently, an incredible rock carving was discovered on a mountaintop in the state of Morelos, Mexico, near the small village of Chalcatzingo. The Olmec stone reliefs of Chacalcingo were already mentioned in chapter 11. They are mentioned also in the new book by Carlo Gay, illustrated by Francis Pratt. Chacalcingo Grass, Australia, 1972. For us, the most unexpected surprise was a big stone face carved out of the living rock, situated above all the other reliefs in the same place. For almost 3,000 years, this face has been gazing over the vast valley of Morelos in the direction of the snow-covered peak of Popocatépetl, all right, one of the mythical volcanoes. Mexico's famous volcano. The feature of this face are indisputably Negroid. Indisputably. The interesting fact remains that only two realistically recognizable faces were executed in the artistic compound of Chacalcingo. One represented a white Semitic, that's what he's calling white, Shemitic, he's just calling a straight nose, prisoner, and the other a Negro. Those are the two phenotypes he found there, guys. We have already seen how the Semitic symbol of the face of Humbaba led to the all-important image of the fire god in America. And now we come to the conclusion that possibly a Negro triggered off all the representations of the paramount rain god Tlaloc. Again, all their deities are so-called what? Negro too? All their deities? Because these were real people, as I said earlier. Yet another surprise. Oh, so many surprises and accidents. An accidental Indian creativeness is awaiting for us. In the stone carving above the so-called Negro Tlaloc, the carving of an open hand appears with outward face and palm, including the lower part of the arm. The hand is pointing up at the sky. The affinity of this device with the Carthaginian symbol of the goddess Tanit in Phoenician alters the 5th and 4th century BC, and with the raised bracelet arm of the Semitic Assyrian king, Ashurnasirpal, all right, just like that. How about I say that's the original? What if I told you that's the original? Who the Assyrians? The sons of Ashur. The sons of Ashur. Ashur is a son of Shem. Oh, we talking about Semitic? Yeah, Shemitic. Ashur is the progenitor of the Assyrians, guys. A son of Shem. A brother of Arphaxad, who the Hebrews come out of, all right? Got to know the genealogy. It's really uncanny. So is the fact that the Negroid rock mask is represented with a helmet and an earring that are fundamentally similar to helmets and earrings known in Egypt at the time of Ramses III. At this point, I leave it to the reader to come to his own conclusion, okay? The arrival of more black immigrants during the late pre-classic and classic epochs will always be difficult to trace. Will always be difficult to trace. They haven't proved that anybody came here unless some unexpected documents are found, unless some sources, primary sources stating, the local people stating, we came from over there, we came from Africa, we came from these people. None of that exists, guys. They might have traveled on Phoenician or Jewish boats. Might have. You've seen it in reverse. This is the true old world. One fact, however, is absolutely sure that pre-Columbian artists continue to portray individuals of purely Negroid stock. They might have been, maybe they're this, maybe they might, probably, they don't know. They're making all that stuff up. They're trying to explain why they're finding this here. The models were, of course, an assortment of diverse beings. They ranged from purely Negroid specimens to individuals in whom only a slight admixture of black blood can be discerned or speculated about, so-called black. The greatest variety of Negroid representations is furnished by the classic Veracruz artists. For a purely black type, we might refer to the fair-sized terracotta head in the Stavenhagen collection. An ordinary black girl is depicted with great realism. The silhouette of the sensitively modeled skull coincides exactly with the prognatism diagram shown in Appendix 5. The ethnic evidence of this piece seems to me practically irrefutable. All right? Irrefutable. The same can be said of the magnificent stone head that is shown on the jacket of this book. This is by far the most interesting object in the excellent Totonac collection of the Natural History Museum of New York. It's there in New York and you didn't even know. You live in New York. You haven't even gone and checked these things out. The sculpture shows not only strictly Negroid features, but also the typical hairline of the black individual, so-called black. The peculiarity of the head should be noted. It has only one ear. The other ear is not broken off, but purposely omitted. So there's, you guys said here, the most African-looking ones are a specimen from Costa Rica, where I'm from. Negroid terracotta figure from Costa Rica. Pura vida, mae. Pura vida. Tiquicia. That's our indigenous name for Costa Rica. Is Tiquicia. If you guys didn't know, it's Tiquicia. Tiquicia. Costa Rica. Right? Ancient Costa Rican right here. We've shown all types of. Here you go, Little Wayne. You guys know Little Wayne? This Little Wayne right here in ancient Costa Rica. Got his flat top and everything. Got the tattoos going on. He got a little tear coming down. Little Wayne. This is from Costa Rica too. So it's detailed of heavily tattooed Negroid terracotta figure, Guanacaste. Guanacaste, where the Chorotega people are. Guanacaste, the Chorotega. That's one of my lines, man. Who mixed with the Sephardic Jews and the Portuguese, right? They mixed with them. It says here, highly stylized Negroid head from Costa Rica with big eyes. Yeah. More human beings with Negroid features can be seen in the Standing Prisoner from Costa Rica, carved in stone and now in the private collection of Alfonso Jimenez Alvarado in San Jose. I'm going to have to pay a visit to Mr. Alfonso Alvarado. Say, hey, when are you going to make this public and let people know what you found here in Costa Rica? The fascinating terracottas from Guanacaste on display in the National Museum of Costa Rica. Okay, so we've actually filmed a lot of these they're talking about. So make sure to check out my video. I went to the National Museum and I went to the Gold Museum. Make sure to check out those videos. All right, so you guys can see a lot of these artifacts they're talking about. And in the private collection of Doña Maria Eugenia de Roy, I bet you these private collections have the best ones. Yeah. I am indebted to Senora de Roy for letting me take the photographs in the museum and in her private home. The many illustrations from Costa Rica show in this book in this book are another proof of the unexpected variety of human characteristics in ancient America, okay? So again, proof of unexpected variety of human characteristics in ancient America. It is like plucking something out of a grab bag. One never knows what prize will appear. A Negro, a white man, or the mixed product of an enormous genetic lottery. You don't know. It's all over the place. What could be more unexpected than finding the extraordinary vessel shown in illustration 81 in the National Museum of Costa Rica? What is this circumcised Negro doing there? Embracing a 2-foot bow and still conveying a message to us of a possible ancient initiation rite with magic spell? Alright, don't add your own hijacks to it. No less surprising are the superb portrait heads in the Negroid collection. They add great weight to the artist's testimonies gathered in this book. Has shown a mixture of Semite, Shemite, and Negro features. Pre-classic from Costa Rica. Semitic and Negro, huh? In Costa Rica, huh? Okay. right. I know my eyes don't lie. Do you guys see? I remember the tattooing. They're saying that was an African thing. Man, we were doing that over here long ago. Says here a terracotta head with fine polished black slip. Probably mystic work. Post classic. The piece with undoubtedly Negro features. Right? Undoubtedly so called Negro features was found on the Mexican high plateau from among Aztec pieces. This is definitely not Aztec. This is older than so called Aztec. All right. Hope you guys see. Come on, guys, look at this. This is from Guatemala. Just like the Egyptians, right? Or just like these old world cultures with the hair on the side. All these Kemetic brothers. The Pan African Kemetic brothers. Look what they're copying. A Guatemalan, an ancient Guatemalan. Oh, this is a cool one. Yeah, this one shows the chakras. You see that? Going up the body. That's what I think. It looks like the chakras. It looks like a Hindu sculpture. The ancient Nagas. Who's the ancient Nagas that went to India? We got videos on that. Look at this. Wow. Almost looks Egyptian, you know, like the hieroglyphics. This is found in Veracruz. I'm just going to read this letter from this old newspaper from an anthropologist letting us know what the people of ancient America look like. He's going to remind us that America had many different phenotypes and many shades of copper, from the lightest copper to the darkest copper complexion. We're at the Saturday Evening Post newspaper. This is volume 7, number 358, written in Philadelphia, June 7th, 1828. All right, this is from 1828. And we're going to zoom in to this part right here. And we go to the middle of this page, and it says here, 4 letters on American history by Professor Rafinski to Dr. J.H. McCullough of Baltimore. It says here, first letter. You appear desirous to learn something more of my researches on the ancient and modern history of North and South America. I feel willing and happy to be able to answer your inquiries and even to suggest perhaps some new facts. The continent of America has ever been the field of philosophical delusions, as Africa of fables and monsters, and Asia of religious creeds. All the various systems and theories of monks and philosophers on the origin, climate, inhabitants, languages, etc. of America have been repeatedly destroyed by facts. All right, that's what we be doing. We be killing all the false narratives and destroying them with facts. And yet they find to this day many believers. So even though many people have debunked all these out of Africa theories and all these theories about America, today people still believe it. Same thing he was saying back in 1828. To this day, do they speak and write of the red man of America, while there is not a red man, nor never was in this continent, because he's talking about there ain't no crayon colors, he wasn't literally red. To this day, do they attempt to separate the American languages from all others, while their roots and structure are exactly like many in the Eastern continent. Just like the old world languages, he's saying it's the same. Many of them are the same, like the old world. Talking about Hebrew, Egyptian, Phoenician, Etruscan, you already know. When we are led by systems or do not investigate and compare subjects and all their bearings, we are apt to fall into these delusive mistakes. But whoever will take the trouble, as I have done, to compare the features, languages, religions, customs, etc., of all the nations of the 5 parts of this world, Asia, Europe, Africa, Polynesia, and America, will find, as I have found, that mankind is a unity with many deviations of features, complexions, languages, religions, governments, civilizations, etc., all derived from single primitive types of those effects and a common central focus. Who evince this result and a single but striking point, doubted to this day by superficial inquirers, it is sufficient to mention that there were in America, listen to this, guys, okay, here we go. Before Columbus came, nations and tribes of the following complexions: coppered, all right, coppered colored tribes, right? Tawny, olive, dusky, all these dark complexions, right? White or pale, yellow, all right, even pale or white, so-called yellow man, dark, brown, and black, so-called black, but none red unless painted. And that all those complexions are also found in Asia, in Polynesia, and in Africa, okay? Just like in Africa, same complexions were found in ancient America. Do you guys hear? Continuing, the Native American Negros, or Black Indians, have been seen in Brazil, Guyana, Caracas, Popayan, Choco, North California, etc. All right? Talking about what? American Negroes or Black Indians, so-called black. Talking about copper. He just described what he meant. Brown, dusky, tawny, copper, right? Dark. By many early travelers and writers, they are mentioned by Nieuwenhof, Raleigh, Langdorf, Dangleria, Barrows, etc. Some of them, such as the Auroras or Caroras of Cumana, were black, but with fine features and long hair like the Yolos and Galsas of Africa. Others in New California, latitude 32, called Esteros, are like the Hottentots, all right, just like this African tribe, the Hottentots, and the Namuquas, Tambukis, and many other Negritian tribes. All right, the people in California are just like these tribes. Listen, he's comparing them, not black, but dark brown, yet complete Negroes with large, thick lips, broad, flat noses, and very ugly Toshta hijack, with hair crisped or curly, all right, crisped or curly or woolly, right? Woolly. The Negro features belong to the form of the head rather than the color, since these are in Africa, Asia, and Polynesia, black, brown, yellow, olive, coppery, and even white Negroes, so-called white, light-skinned Negroes, huh? The American Negroes of Cuarecua in Choco, the great level plain 300 miles long, 90 wide, separating the Andes of South America from the mountains of Panama, were black and with woolly heads in 1506, okay? They are mentioned by Dangleria and all the early accurate writers. The two last travelers who have seen these Negroes are Stevenson, 20 years travel in South America, London, 1825, and Mollien travels in Colombia, Paris, 1824. Stevenson says that the Indians of Manabi, comprising the districts of Esmeraldas, Rio Verde, and Atacamas on the seashore of Popayan, are all Sambos.
That's supposedly the mix between a Negro and an American Indian. So make sure to dodge the hijack when they're talking about Sambos. We're gonna get into so-called Sambos. Let's not generalize and assume that has to be mixed with African. So either way, we're gonna get into the Esmeralda region and the so-called Sambos, who supposedly were produced by a ship full of Negroes who came in this country before the Spaniards, killed the former Indians, kept the women and formed a mixed race. They are tall, of a blackish color, with soft curly hair, large eyes, flat noses, thick lips, etc., while the true Sambos, or modern offspring of Indians and Negroes, are of a deep copper color, with thick hair, not curled, small eyes, sharp noses, and good lips. In another part of the second volume of Stevenson is the following passage. The Punkais of Riobamba and Popayan have a tradition that once before the Spaniards came, they were invaded from the west by a nation of monkeys, and as the Spaniards came the same way, they took them also at first for monkeys. So they mistook the Spaniards for monkeys, huh? In Molian, the following notice is found. The Indians of Choco, whose true name in Gauna or Chuanas nation, where Dangleria's Negroes were found, are very ugly and black. He says, all right, that's the hijack with his prejudices, right? Their language harsh and rough. Some words are given which may be compared with other Negro languages. For instance, man gemeora, woman de cupera, amba, numi, campa, ayapa, conambo. In the same quarter, or the west shore of Popayan, we have on record two other invasions by sea. The first is that of the giants mentioned by La Vega in his History of Peru, all right? Giants. And the second, that of the Squeres nation, 500 years before Columbus, mentioned by Hervas. The white Indians of America have been seen almost everywhere, as well as the bearded Indians, all right? Or light-skinned people were here, and people with beards. To quote my authorities, would fill many pages. There's many references of that. We've gone over a lot. Many tribes in the Antilles, Florida, Guyana, Peru, Chile, are represented as white as the Spaniards. Dodge the hijack, because the Spaniards weren't even so-called white. I want to see those representations. By the early writers, yeah, the same people who are whitewashing, right? Who had no system to support like modern theorists, and many had bushy beards. In fact, we find all the races, features, and complexions of mankind in America. In fact, again, we find all the races, features, and complexions of mankind in America. And we find also out of it many nations with scanty beards or plucking it as a troublesome appendage. Thus, the three great divisions of mankind in regard to their complexion were found in America. Previous to the modern colonization, these three races have erroneously been called white, red, and black. All right, they've been called by crayon colors. That's an error, to which I have proposed to substitute the terms of pale, tawny, and dark. He'd rather use those, which is still tags and generalizations, which describe them completely, although it is not the color, but rather the features which distinguish them. The geographical corresponding appellations of Caucasian, Indian, and Negritian races may be equally objectionable, as well as the traditional names of Japhetian, Semitic, and Ammonian races, because they are based upon theoretical origins. Whatever be their names, although once very distinct, and probably the three primitive derivations of mankind, they have since, like their primitive languages, become so much entangled, intermixed, and changed so as to have resumed many other shades: white, whitish, rosy, ruddy, tawny, olive, bronzed, coppery, yellowish, yellow, brown, brownish, blackish, black, ebony, etc., which are now found all over the 5 parts of the earth. A similar confusion and intermixture has occurred with languages which have split from primitive stocks into mother tongues: dead, holy, written, and spoken languages, dialects, and subdialects, etc. Thus, in the course of time, producing all the immense varieties of speech that have existed or do yet exist, all of which can, however, be traced to each other by comparative philology, deeply searched in spite of theories and the apparent confusion of diversity and difficulties. May 1828, C.F. Rafinski. All right, that was the article from 1828, the letters of Rafinski letting you know ancient America was very diverse. This is the true old world. Let me just back up again so you guys can see where I am. Again, this was the Saturday Evening Post from June 7th, 1828, Volume 7. And here's a little refresh what we just read. Again, he let us know that before Columbus came, nations and tribes of the following complexions: copper, tawny, olive, dusky, white or pale yellow, dark brown, and black. All right, all these complexions were in America before Columbus. You can just look at the highlighted parts in yellow for the references we just read. Again, all the races, all the features, all the types of hair, all that existed in ancient America. You got to break your stereotypes and prejudices when it comes to describing people from different continents of the world. Another article here from the 1800s that I thought you guys should have as reference. You can find this online. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in once again, though. Really appreciate that. Much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Hawa.